Ambassador Fouere, first of all, thank you for your time today. How do you assess the negotiation framework for North Macedonia? Can you single out all the positive, if there are any positive and negative aspects?
Well, I presume you're referring to the latest developments and the proposal made by France.
Yes.
To try and resolve the situation. Personally, I find this proposal has many dangerous elements contained in it. First of all, it obliges the Macedonian government to change its constitution even before the negotiations for accession start. And there's no reciprocity, which means, therefore, that the European Union is accepting that Bulgaria is violating its commitments under the Council of Europe Convention on Human Rights and the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights relating to the presence of Macedonian minority in Bulgaria. And secondly, the reference in the French proposal specifically to regular reviews of the friendship treaty with Bulgaria, between North Macedonia and Bulgaria, allows for the insertion of issues relating to history and identity and education into the accession process. If, as the Macedonian government states, that this is not the case, then it should be said explicitly in a document which would be incorporated into the minutes of the first intergovernmental meeting to ensure that Bulgaria will not use or misuse this reference to the annual reviews for imposing other vetoes or other demands on the Macedonian government.
The government claims that we have a clear Macedonian language, but there will be a Bulgarian statement in the record when adopting the negotiation framework. In that statement will be written that Macedonian language before 1945 was Bulgarian dialect. Can this be misused in the future?
Well, unfortunately, because the relationship between Bulgaria and Macedonia is so, North Macedonia is so bad at the moment, and Bulgaria has shown that it is misusing its membership of the European Union to impose its own version of events with regard to language, with regard to history, then yes, there is a danger. I think what needs to be ensured is that in any reference to the Macedonian language in the negotiation, there should be no asterisks or footnotes attached. At least that will guarantee that the Bulgarian statement is a unilateral one, which doesn't affect the overall recognition of the Macedonian language at the European Union level, but that needs to be made clear.
Can you give us example how it can be misused in the future from Bulgaria?
Well, I mean, it's not just there, but in many other aspects where there is no, in the text as I see it, there is no guarantee that Bulgaria will not impose its veto if it sees in its view that the Macedonian government is not respecting its obligations. And I think what needs to be remembered here is that the accession process has become much more intergovernmental than before, meaning that any member state, in this case Bulgaria, can interfere in the accession process. The European Commission used to be the guarantor, used to be the independent objective assessor of the developments in an applicant country, but now it has lost that role, as illustrated by the absolutely disgraceful statements made by the Commissioner last week. And so there is nothing, unfortunately, to prevent Bulgaria misusing its membership of the European Union to impose its own version of what it believes is the correct approach.
You already said that, and it's according to the French proposal, the negotiation framework, that North Macedonia will start negotiations officially when we will put Bulgarians in our constitution. You read the framework. Will Macedonia have two IGC with EU in this case?
Well, it looks like it because there is one intergovernmental conference envisaged to discuss the process, and then there's a second one to actually start. So in between those two intergovernmental conferences, there seems to be the obligation that there must be the change in the constitution before that. And I think this imposes a excessive burden and obligation on the country, which is totally at variance to the European Union approach. And it also means that the European Union is accepting Bulgaria's violation of its obligations under the European Court of Human Rights and the judgments of the European Court of Justice for Human Rights.
The negotiation framework is not the same as for the other countries. Is this a precedent in EU?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it is. And it demonstrates the fact that Bulgaria's behavior, acting as a colonial power, trying to impose its own version of history onto the Macedonian people, the Macedonian nation, its own version of what should be in the history books and so on, is being endorsed by the European Union.
Why EU is allowing this? Why EU is allowing this to happen?
Unfortunately, I wish I had a solution to that, but the fact of the matter is that Bulgaria has imposed its own view and the European Union has accepted it. You recall, as I mentioned, the disgraceful statement by the Commissioner, which said that all Bulgarian concerns are now accepted, which goes totally contrary to the objective approach that the European Commission and the European Union should have. So the situation is extremely delicate, and I think unless the Macedonian government has assurances in writing from the EU that issues relating to history and education will not be included in the accession process, the whole process will be extremely problematic for the government and for the country in the future. It ties basically what happens is that if North Macedonia accepts this proposal and the negotiations will start, it will lock North Macedonia into a straitjacket and Bulgaria will hold the key. And this is not the way it should be.
The Macedonian government sees this proposal as a last chance. How do you commend this?
Yes, but if it's a poisoned chalice, which means that yes, the negotiations open, but under terrible conditions for the country, I believe that it is right for the Macedonian government to insist on those assurances. There's no reason why it cannot, instead of accepting it as it is, there is no reason why it cannot say to the EU, yes, this is fine, but we want written assurances that issues relating to history and education will not be included in the accession process by virtue of the reference to those reviews and protocols under Article 12 of the Friendship Agreement. So it's perfectly acceptable for the Macedonian government to ask for that, and they should ask for that.
Yes. Ambassador Fouere, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.